Everybody's back? Had a good lunchtime? Enjoyed the food trucks? Yes, thank you. Wherever it came from. Yes, nice glasses. Our next guest, Nate, will be talking about virtual reality festivals. Sounds interesting. I'd like to welcome him on the stage and give him a warm applause.
Thank you, everyone. I am super excited to be here to talk to you guys about virtual worlds, the transformational festival culture ethos, and the future of social VR, and how these things are kind of all connected. So I'm going to really be looking at a case study in both the company I work for, IMVU, which I'll tell you a little bit more about, and Burning Man. So let's get started. There you go. So a little bit of kind of what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to go over IMVU. I'm going to talk about the current, the ascent to social VR, how we're going to see VR kind of play out in the future as far as social networking is concerned. A little bit about Burning Man, and then really dive into the intersection. So the majority of this will basically be me analyzing IMVU and Burning Man, but they're all recommendations for creating social VR experiences. And I'm going to look at it starting from the individual, then the community and the environment and the space and the experience. So first about IMVU. How many of you have actually heard of IMVU before? Well, that's actually a lot more than I expected. We have the largest avatar-based social network, and we've been around for 11 years. How many of you have heard of the Lean Startup? There you go. So if you've read the Lean Startup, then you've read about IMVU. Eric Reese was one of our founders, and I have been with the company for about 4 years. I was the product manager for our most successful product launch, which was the IMVU mobile client. And I also have worked on some other projects with IMVU I'll tell you about in a second. But a little more about us. The majority of IMVU's action kind of takes place in 3D chat rooms, where we have 3 million monthly active users and over 150 million registered accounts in our 11 years of existence. And we also have the world's largest catalog of user-generated 3D objects with over 20 million assets created by our community. And as I said before, we are the birthplace of the Lean Startup methodology. But you definitely know about Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, right? Well, we worked with them recently, and I was actually the project manager for this project, to redo all of the art in 3 weeks for the entire Kimoji application. Does anyone use it? I think this is their target demographic, right? Berliners and people at tech conferences. No. But actually it was a really cool experience working with them, so it was really cool to be a part of something where our unique avatar art style could be out there and used by millions and millions of people to communicate with their friends in the current social communication tech platform. So now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the ascent to social VR. As you can see there, if my head wasn't in the way, in the late 90s we had text messaging, AOL chat rooms, where I basically spent most of my high school years. And we've actually, at IMVU, I could describe our 3D chat rooms as a very similar 3D manifestation of that AOL environment. Then we had social networking, Friendster. Who was on Friendster? Yeah, I wasn't actually, but definitely MySpace was my thing. But it's kind of cool to look back in the history about that we don't think about so much anymore. Then we have photo and text sharing, Snapchat definitely being the big one up here, the up and coming. And social VR is really the future. It's communicating as if you're sitting right next to the person you're communicating with. And by social VR, I don't mean Farmville or Candy Crush or social gaming, where it's like, I need a brown cow, so gift me this thing and I'll give you these points. It's actually people being in a room like they are actually together. So, don't just take it from me, and I'm sure many of you are aware of this environment, but social VR will have a native experience to that platform, and that Instagram is native to the mobile platform. What is going to be the new experience for social VR that can only exist because of social VR? And in all of this, and this is, I guess, where my expertise comes in, the avatar is going to be really important. As you can see, the CEO of Oculus kind of talking about that. Seeing multiple people's avatars in a face-to-face experience is really going to be what you're going to have as this future of social VR. So next, the part that maybe doesn't fit into everything right now is Burning Man. So we've had a lot of awesome talks here about Burning Man, and I love how this conference has really embraced a lot of this the ethos that's kind of grown out of the Transformational Festival world. How many of you have been to Burning Man? Or a regional burn? Or have heard of Burning Man? Great, so I don't need to go too deep into Burning Man, but the main things about Burning Man I want you to kind of recall are the 10 principles here. And these 10 principles are kind of the things that naturally grew out of the movement and out of the experience. And I'm going to kind of demonstrate how a lot of these play out in IMVU and other virtual social worlds, and how these things will be relevant for the future of social PR. So the only exception being decommodification, because as a tech company, we have to stay in business in one way or another. So we do make money from our customers. So this intersection, I think, is very important for the future of social VR. And I want you to think of IMVU and Burning Man as platforms. They are platforms for people to create, they are platforms for people to express themselves, and they are platforms that people use to socialize. I mean, they're platforms in the way that YouTube is a platform, and they're platforms in the way that the people that are on the platform are the ones that define really how it ends up in the end. IMVU, we did not set up the community to work how it does. Our customers have really defined that. So just some quotes from our customers, which is really where I started seeing the similarities here, is this talk to strangers culture that we have at IMVU just makes it really easy to meet new people and make new friends, which for me was one of the defining parts of Burning Man and meeting burners in general. And meeting people from all around the world when you're there. You frequently run into people from Europe, South America, and you never really know what's going to happen next on IMVU or at Burning Man, and it's really a getaway for people. And what these things have is a full engagement loop that kind of keeps feeding itself. The cycle in Burning Man being like, throughout the year or the event, and for us just being when you're using IMVU. So starting exploring, connecting, sharing your experience with Burning Man that would be on social media or just with your friends, and getting that validation from other people that, hey, you've done this cool thing, you've been there, participation and creation. So the first advice I'm going to give you, which I'm sure you all know if you work in tech, is encourage virality. In the case of Burning Man, it's social media and public discourse. In the case of the tech world, it's utilizing other social media platforms and incentives and things like that. And do it in a way that feels natural, not in a way that feels, like I said before, trying to get your brown cow and Candy Crush or anything else like that. So yeah, let's start talking about the individual. The most important Burning Man principle that I'm going to talk about is radical self-expression. And this is essentially what people are doing on these platforms with their avatars. This is an IMVU avatar there, and this is someone at Burning Man. The avatar and the costuming, the way that people see you when you first meet them, is extremely important in both of these platforms. Your avatar is the way that people will first see you on IMVU or in this world, or in Burning Man, how they will understand and interact with you and kind of make their assumptions about you on the first time they meet you. These are created by IMVU customers. And the similarities of camp names and usernames. I know that your name may be very important to you because your parents gave it to you, but there's something important in being able to choose what people call you. And I really like the idea of people not using their real name at Burning Man or in these social worlds, because they're able to express themselves just with what they call themselves. And that identity goes with you. In IMVU, we have various apps, which I'm actually leading the global development effort on, where you can take that identity and the avatar into different games and experiences. And at Burning Man, there's other transformational festivals, transformational adult summer camps and things where you can bring your camp name and your playa identity with you. So part of not using your real name and part of the ephemeral nature of both being on IMVU and being at Burning Man is the anonymity that comes with it. This is really important. I know people like Facebook don't want to encourage this sort of behavior because of the security issues and things like that can come out of it, but it really does provide you an important platform to express yourself. It gives you a safe space. You don't have to worry about other people judging you or saying, oh, this is how this is how this person is, I'm going to see them next week and you'll make a fool of yourself, whatever else, the way we kind of feel like in a lot of our everyday life. When at Burning Man, you may never see people ever again. They don't know your real name, they don't know necessarily where you're from, and obviously in an anonymous avatar social network, they have the same experience. So you're able to really be yourself. You take that pressure off of having to perform. You can be who you want to be. And along with that comes alternative lifestyle acceptance. Being anonymous just makes it a lot easier to be yourself. And we've been obviously avid supporters of any sort of different lifestyle and allowing you to interact with those communities in IMVU in any way that you can and is important to you. And if being yourself is not what you want to be, you can also role play and be someone else. At Burning Man, I've run into people that are, will speak like with an English accent as an American for the day. And just tell people they're from England because they can. They can be a different identity. They can be whoever they want to be just for fun. And there's importance in play. And obviously that's a very big part of IMVU and other virtual social worlds. So when you get all of these individuals together, you get the community environment. And it's really important that this community creates new social norms and new ways to behave. And in any social VR experience, the norms that are either created by the people or facilitated by the designer of the environment will really determine how successful I think it will be. Because that really creates the structure of the escape and the communication and the way people interact with one another. So I personally like being able to get out of the norms of everyday life by being able to experiment and being able to play. And that's what you do in virtual social worlds and what you do in these transformational festival cultures. And a really important piece of advice I actually got from one of our other speakers here, Berkate, who's sitting up front, was when you're talking about creating a festival space or a social movement of some sort, it's really important, it can be really important to start small and scale it. So you can kind of start with those cultural values from the beginning. And I guess Burning Man obviously started as a very small thing and slowly grew into what it's become, and now you have all these other movements that are also starting small, just to kind of keep some of those principles together and interact. And I would say a good example is looking at Pokemon Go. Is there a culture of Pokemon Go? No, this thing blew up bigger than Tinder overnight. There are certain things, yes, that keep it together, but it just kind of started in that Coachella-like space, and that Coachella started with like 20,000 people. So it's a very mainstream type of environment that may be a little bit less unique. I'm not saying the game isn't fantastic, but I'm saying there's a lot of advantage in starting small and being able to really curate what those norms are to create a really interesting and great escape experience for people. So then, demographics. How does that matter? Well, I can tell you IMVU's demographics and Burning Man's demographics are completely different. I could probably count on one hand how many people use IMVU and have gone to a transformational festival. But I think that's what's the interesting part here. It is important to have a demographic you're going for from the beginning. In Facebook's case, it was college students from certain specific universities, and then growing out from there, because you do need that niche to catch on. But basically, this is what allows you to see the similarities between these two things that have very different demographics, gets to the root of like human nature and ways that we want to interact with each other. So IMVU, unlike Second Life, actually exists of a lot of rooms. So you jump in and out chat rooms using a browser. It's not a big open world thing. It's very focused on the social experience. It's focused on the avatar. And these rooms, just like Burning Man camps, become the space for community to gather. It's a small space, so it kind of forces conversation. It has a theme, which is important in people kind of bonding together over similar ideas and artistic sensibility. And the community is built through the construction of those spaces. If you've ever been a part of a Burning Man camp, so much of the Burning Man experience is not the festival. And this is why, though I love festivals like Lightning in a Bottle or other transformational ones where you can kind of just show up and buy your stuff, Burning Man is really the few months before and after where you're building this community with other people by building a space to be shared. And what this really does, and this is where it comes home for me, is it really taps into our tribal roots. I feel like there's a lot of studies out there that show that people really thrive when they're in communities of 30 to 60, 70 people that they can kind of always be around and rely on. And in IMVU, that's your social network that can be around the rooms and around the people you're hanging out with. Like IMVU isn't necessarily like Facebook where you'll have 5,000 friends. It's more about having 20 to 60 important connections that you're keeping up with all the time. And I feel like the Burning Man camp also helps create that unique bond. And so the experience. Culture of no expectations is a really big learning that you kind of learn viscerally by being at Burning Man or being in a virtual social world. By nature of the amazing things that happen and how some things are spontaneous and unplanned, and the magic is something that, it's not like, I mean, there is a program, but it's not like you're gonna see where Tycho's playing at a trash fence in the program. But that moment when you stumble upon that sort of thing is very mind-blowing. It makes it even more meaningful, and it gives you the lesson of, as you can see here, expectation is the root of all heartache. So being able to just approach life in general or an interactive experience so that people are always guessing and always hoping that there's something more interesting, that kind of flea market approach that, hey, you might be spending a lot of time not doing what you like, but then when something really cool happens, it means that much more because you weren't expecting it. Radical participation. Well, you can't be a spectator in Burning Man or in IMVU. In IMVU, they'll see you in a chat room and they'll be like, who are you, what are you doing here? And they'll kind of force you to participate in the same way you'll go to Burning Man camp and they'll pull you out into the yoga class or they'll pull you into the discussion. It's not something it's not a spectator sport. And I think that's a really important part of building deep connection into whatever VR experience that you're going to create. Don't let people just sit and watch things. They have to be a part of them. So people then on these platforms, the things that they're a part of can be different sort of interactive art and different experiences that allow the creator to be creative and share with other people, and the people in the audience, in the experience, be a part of the whole thing for everyone else. And the mind-opening potential of these experiences, and the fact that in the VR space, there's no way to, because it's not reality, you have a lot more of a canvas to paint with. And in Burning Man, people use lots of other ways to open their minds, I think, that have can have similar effects in how you experience the world and just looking at it in a different way. And another interesting small similarity is, even before electronic music was extremely mainstream in the States, as it has been in the past few years, because of the platforms themselves, it was the style of music that was most popular. In IMVU, because it's impossible to get a band together of live people, actually Second Life tried to get Duran Duran to play a live show, but they ended up crashing the servers when more than 50 avatars came to the concert. And at Burning Man, I've found it to be very, very hard, almost near impossible, to get a full live band of musicians together to perform at the same time. But along with that is dance. Dance is one of the biggest forms of participation in both Burning Man and in IMVU, and that anyone can do it. And it's a really great kind of accompaniment. Instead of watching a band at Burning Man on Robot Heart, you'll see a bunch of dancers up top. Same thing with an IMVU. In an IMVU room, you'll see a stage where you'll see these avatars dancing, and someone has created the dance moves that these dancers are doing, and that's kind of how they're expressing themselves visually. Gifting, another thing that is a big part of the IMVU economy and a big part of Burning Man. And gifting without the expectation of receiving anything in return. The things that the unique gift that you share with people, in this person's case, bananas, which would probably be really awesome at Burning Man, is how they express themselves and how they build deeper connections with others. And in IMVU, people gift avatar items like hats, clothing, things that they've made with other people to kind of enhance their relationship. And we see that a lot of friendships, you can kind of see the start of someone's friendship is when someone does that gift, when they just give them something, which costs that other person either money or time because they've created it. And it really does strengthen that bond. And so a lot of social experiences in Burning Man are not easy. This difficulty is an important thing in any kind of game or any other experience. As you can see here, a dust storm is not, it can be a lot of fun, but it's also not the most pleasant thing to be into. But it really requires a time investment, both these worlds and Burning Man. You're spending a lot of time into something which actually then makes you more connected to it in the first place. And having that path to mastery so that you can clearly ascend from, just jumping in and doing a little bit to, now I can do this, to look more experienced in it, spend more and more time to become, to show off as a master of your experience. And the way you do that in both of these platforms is through what you're wearing and how you express yourself to other people. So you can go and buy a super cool costume, but really the coolest costumes at Burning Man are made by the people that have been doing it for a while, that are learning about fashion and design, so they can express themselves in a truly unique way that no one else is doing there. And in IMVU, our creator program, as I told you about, a lot of people do it because they want to create things that no one else on the platform has, so that their avatar can be 100% unique, and they'll learn how to 3D model and put these things out into our marketplace and kind of earn their living in the IMVU space through creating their costuming. But all of these experiences, in the end of the day, have rites of passage. As part of this way to mastery, you become an IMVU creator, you found a Burning Man camp, you have your first art card. There are all these different places which kind of like validate your existence within these worlds. And it's important to have those kind of markers as you go so that you feel like you're having this rite of passage. And I kind of want to wrap up with saying, it's really not about the tech, it's not about features. And I want to encourage all of you that are working in social VR to focus on the human, focus on the humanity, focus on the tribe, focus on what brings us all together and what makes people engage in things. Because features, yeah, it may bring you in the door, but it's not going to keep you there. What's going to keep you there is going to be the people that you meet and the friendships that you make and the things you guys create together. So, also, if you want to create things together, as I said, I work with the IMVU API program. If any of you are working in virtual reality or in Unity experiences, I'd please encourage you to come up and speak with me later. We have a program where we're working with startups and other people to kind of publish your experiences on our platform to have the different Burning Man camps or games throughout our experience. We would love to share what you guys are working on. So come up and talk to me. And thank you very much. Do we have time for a question or two? We have 2 minutes. Go ahead. If anyone has any questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes.
My question is, I like the project, and my question is, compared to other social media platforms or communities, what's the difference in security? I mean, I experienced a lot of different online communities, and they tend to destroy themselves with racism, sexism, and stuff like that, especially when it comes together with anonymity. What's the difference? I just wonder.
Sure. So community policing actually also in Burning Man, having a cultural values that do not accept these sorts of things, and having an active customer base. So we actually have an active customer base that will review some of these situations that come up. We have a large team in Manila, customer service team, that actually deals with a lot of these claims. And just like something like League of Legends, where they encourage people to kind of report things and come forward about it, we put a lot of time and effort into that security, and we care very deeply about it for many reasons, obviously, because if you don't have that safe space to be in, you can't express yourself, you can't really enjoy the community the way other people do. Yeah, a lot of people do want to use anonymous things to troll and to do things they otherwise can't, but we just make it known, and our community helps support the fact that that's not really welcome.
Thank you very much. There I see another one.
So I find it very interesting here, and I wanted to know, regarding Second Life, how do you compare yourself with Second Life, and why did Second Life, nearly die? What do you think?
Second Life is still going strong too. They're working on converting the whole thing to VR. The main difference between us and them is we are more social, and we're more focused like on the AOL chat room side in the avatar. Our avatars that are as personal expression are much, much more relevant in ours. But Second Life is more like open world creation, creating environments, creating communities, existing in a real space. So I would say we're more about the people, and they're more about the environment.
Thank you very much. I see a lot of people coming in and out. Is there any last question? No. Well, thank you a lot, Nate.
Yeah, I'll be here afterwards if anyone wants to talk.
Time just went up. 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
4:30.
4:30, yes.
3:30, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I
Come in and
we had time.
yes. Yeah.
It has an adapter on it?
Perfect.
And I can drop. Where should I put this guy? Here?
Just give it to me.
Oh, thank you. My backpack's right here.
We got some time.
I know. Breathe. You know how that works.
Not normal, but.
No, I know. Superhuman activity.
Hey, what's going on, man? Let me just stop.